Hey everyone, it is double take day. I am Misty from Missouri Star Quilt Company and I'm here with Natalie.
Yep, hi.
And today we are tackling the Tree of Life block, and so we have some really fun ideas for you.
Yes, it's going to be fun.
And I think you are going to get us started, right?
I'm going to go first.
All
we'll see how it goes. All right, so I guess I get to go first today. This is my quilt. I've had so much fun with these solids and picking these colors. It was really fun.
I love it.
And it's a lot easier to make than you think, I promise.
Okay, awesome.
It's not often that we get to use yardage for quilts, so I'm pretty excited about it.
I loved that too. It was really fun, kind of freeing.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so to make my quilt, you're gonna need a light, a dark, and a medium. So of your dark, you need 2/3 of a yard. Your light is 1 2/3. Medium fabric is 3 yards, and that's because I used my same medium for my border. And then background is 4 yards. And my backing is 7.5 yards. This is a large quilt if you have just 45-inch wide fabric.
Right.
Or 2.5 if you have a 108. And this is a 108. This is sold in our backing shop. And I just think it turned out beautiful. It's got all the right colors.
I was going to say, could the colors have been any better?
I think it's perfect.
Yes.
It worked out. All right, now you will need to square a bunch of half square triangles, and the way that I made mine, the Clearly Perfect works great because you cut them out of the tube.
Oh.
So I'll show you how to do that.
Perfect.
All right, let's get started. All right, so this quilt is made using these 2 blocks. So I have my little Tree of Life block here.
Awesome.
And then this is my secondary block, and it's kind of Jacob's Ladder-esque.
Yes.
But I think it's really fun with the design.
I love it.
So we will learn how to make both of them. They're fairly simple. We'll start with our harder one because then we can get that out of the way.
I love that.
And it's not too bad, I promise. So the first thing we're going to do is make all of our little half square triangles. And to do that, we're going to take 2.5-inch strips of our light and our dark. So you're going to put them together with your background and stitch on both sides to create a tube. So it looks just like this.
Okay.
And then with each of these colors, and I've got these done already because that's just a long time of sewing, those long tubes. So with these colors then we're going to take our Clearly Perfect and we're going to cut out all of our half square triangles, and they are then pre-squared as you cut. So they're all 2.5-inch square. And on this, you kind of just do your tops and bottoms and switch back and forth. And then there's like a little bit of waste in between just because they end up being, it gives you just a little bit of extra room.
Okay.
So typically you can use one side right on the seam, or I mean, you do line it up on the seam, sorry, your 2.5-inch line. And then you'll notice here
when you flip it
that
back,
there's that little space. So you just scoot it over and keep it lined up on your stitch line, and then you'll cut across there and cut off this little extra bit. And typically you only have to do one of your little corners. So, and if you miss it, it's not a big deal to just back cut it.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's a fun little hack because you're going to get a lot of half square triangles out of that strip.
Yes, and we need quite a few for this. So we'll cut them out of our light and our dark. I'll do a couple of these just to keep showing you. And it seems a little fidgety, but you're cutting and squaring at the same time, so it's really not bad. And then we'll press them open.
Do you need me to press?
Sure,
Okay.
that would be great. I do have a bunch done
Okay.
up here, lots of them.
Oh, perfect.
And we'll just lay them out
you've
and
got more
show
there
how to
too.
go. So you can press those if you like.
I'll roll a few back just so I have something to do.
Cool, cool. I'm gonna set these, get all these strips out of the way here.
Okay.
Because the next thing we're gonna do is our tree trunk. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to make this tree trunk part. So we're gonna start with 2 squares. Our background square is 8.5, and then our dark green is, well, it's technically my medium.
Yes.
It is 9 inches.
Okay.
So we'll leave that whole, and then this one I'm gonna cut in half diagonally. just like this. And then I'm going to add to the middle this 1.5 by 13.5 inch strip.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, I always like to just finger press and find the middle, and then do the same on these guys. And match up those middles, because it's just easier if you know where you got to
have everything lined
match
up.
them up. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll just do one side, and if you put them together so that they nest,
Right.
stitch that one, we'll flip it and turn it out, and probably find that middle again, because I'm going to press it.
In between.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It just makes life easier.
Make sure I'm staying lined up. There we go.
And these pieces, the measurements that I've given are kind of tight.
Okay.
So you'll want to use scant seams and be careful. And if you need more space, just cut bigger squares and
Okay.
trim it down after you're done.
Okay.
So I'm going to find that middle again. And then you can add this middle, match that up, and stitch this side on.
Beautiful.
And the scant seam really is more on this section here than, so I'll show you. I'll tell you what I'm talking about before we get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. There we go.
All right. So now we have our stem, and we're going to add the rest of it kind of half square triangle style. Just like so. We're going to do a little diagonal line here.
Do you have a pen?
As a pencil would be great.
Okay. There you go.
And you can draw this on the other side if you want to, but I think you can see it on here.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to stitch on both sides of that line, so keep this seam is where you need to be kind of scant.
Okay.
But
I will just do a little
it shouldn't,
narrow
yeah, it
seam.
shouldn't be too bad.
Okay. There we go.
Alrighty, so we'll cut this apart now, and then this gets squared to 8.5 inches.
Okay.
And you get 2 tree trunks.
2 for
at
1.
once. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep, just like that. So let me go ahead and press it, and then we'll square it up. It should be pretty close. I tried to keep my measurements close so that it wasn't like a lot of waste, you know?
Makes sense.
Alrighty, so we've got 8.5. It's right on. So I've just got a tiny little bit here. You did good.
Oh,
you
good.
gave me
Thank you.
extra. Yay.
Not too tight.
Yep, and you just want to make sure you're, when you're squaring without like a block lock or whatever, that your points go into your corners, and then I'm trying to make sure that this stays sort of centered here. If it gets a little off, it's not a big deal, but I like to try and line things up. So and we'll cut that and trim that off, and we're good to go.
We have a nice
right
square
there.
block. Beautiful.
Yep. Okay. So now we're going to take our little half square triangles, and we're going to line all of these up so they all hit the color. Whoops. Just like this. And then these ones go on top.
There's more of the dark ones over on the ironing board too.
Awesome. So we do 4, and that adds up to, again, 8.5 inches across. And then there's this little block in the corner that's kind of like a bow tie. It has its 2, so we can make this little 4 patch up here if you want.
Okay.
So I'll have you do this piece right
Yep,
here.
that's perfect.
And then these get, whoops. It's hard when you've got all of these half square triangles.
Every which way.
It seemed like they're going every which way. They're really not. They're all going the same way. There's just a lot of them.
Yes.
And these do go opposite directions.
Okay.
So you want to watch the directions of your half square triangles as you're putting them together.
Okay, I'm almost done with this little guy.
Perfect.
See here, nest that little middle. There we go.
All righty. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. All right, so this goes up here in this corner, just like so. And so what I would do now is we should sew these together in rows.
Okay.
And then we'll join these 2 rows to this 4 patch.
Yep.
And then these 2 rows will be joined to this, and then we'll join those together.
Like a off kilter 4
An
patch.
off kilter 4 patch.
That's right.
And I just found that it was easier for me to stitch together all the same colors and then create that row and then add it to these 2 rows as,
Makes sense. Yeah.
part of it. So that's how you do that.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so next block is even easier.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and put these away. This would, takes a minute. They're nice and big though, comparatively, as half square triangles go.
It's true.
They're not the smallest. Okay, so this one, we're gonna need to make some half square triangles. So our medium and our background are 5-inch squares. We're gonna draw a line from corner to corner, 1 line, and stitch on both sides of this line. And I have one of these already made.
Oh, awesome.
So you don't have to sew it.
Easy for me.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and cut this apart, and then everything in this block is 4.5 inches. So I'll use my Clearly Perfect again and cut these down. Very little waste here because we did our smaller measurement with the 5 inches. Oops. That's the nice thing about having that seam line up, because you can just put it right back.
Want me to press those for you?
That would be awesome.
Okay.
And then we'll just line it up, because all the other squares in this block are already cut to 4.5 inches.
Oh, okay.
There's just these 4 half square triangles, and the rest are just full-size squares.
Nice.
So that comes together super quick and easy, especially compared with all the tiny triangles on your other blocks. I thought for me, it's nice to have these kind of broken up with, a little bit of tough stuff and then a bunch of easy stuff.
I love that.
I like the combination anyways.
Well, and they're beautiful
Move this out
together.
of the
I
way.
really like how they look with these 2 blocks paired together.
And I always go with like colors that are easy. So I'll put together my blue in this diagonal setup. And then I add my half square triangles facing in, just like that. And I think I have, yep, I've got a couple more here. This one, and then this one. And then we just have our 2 little backgrounds in the corners that fill it out. And
Beautiful.
that's it. Sew that together like a giant 9 patch and you're good to go.
Awesome. It's so pretty.
So the diagram here is just, it's just that, it's a diagram. So I started by putting mine in the middle, and then I went around with my little Jacob's Ladder diagonal blocks.
Yes.
And I just kind of wanted it to starburst out from there. So you'll just, watch that diagram. These ones face out, and then these 2 face to the middle. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares across and 6 down. Okay. It's square because I like the design.
Of course, yeah, you're just keeping with that kind of burst from the middle.
I went ahead and quilted it. This is one of our new ones. It's called Dollop.
It's cute.
This machine quilting pattern. It's really fun. And the outer border is 5.5 inches. Okay, so this is my backing, and you can see the machine quilting really nicely on it. It's that lovely dollop pattern. But I love this Northcott Stonehenge.
It
It's
is
just,
perfect for
it
it.
worked out so great with this quilt.
Absolutely beautiful.
So
I love it, Natalie.
awesome. Well, I hope you guys have fun making it. It's a lot easier than it looks, I promise.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to see what you've got for us.
All right, let's do it. All right, so this is my quilt.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you. I really love how it turned out. I called it Grandmother Willow, one, because I love that character, and two, because my grandma who taught me how to sew had a beautiful willow tree at her house that I would play under as a kid. So
Oh,
this
that's
is
so
a nod
sweet.
to that. So to
And the colors are just so beautiful.
Thank you. I used the Colorworks Northcott Solids.
Oh,
and
nice.
They were beautiful to work with. Absolutely
Awesome.
gorgeous.
That's great. I
Yeah.
love having more variety to work with.
I know, me too.
So fun.
And so to make this quilt, you are going to need 2 1/4 yards of your accent fabric, which in this case is actually your white. And then you will need 4 yards of your background fabric, which is this beautiful sage color. And then for your backing, you need either 4 yards with a horizontal seam, or I actually did use a 108, and you just need 2 yards of that.
This is such a pretty 108.
Yeah, I really like it. Just a sweet little floral.
And it matches your colors
It was
perfectly.
the perfect color.
I
Yes.
love when that happens.
And then I'm going to use the trimmer B from the Clearly Perfect Slotted Trimmers. So
Excellent.
let me show you how to make it. So this is the little block that we will be making, and it is all on point today.
Oh, I love it.
So let me show you how to do it. So up first, we are going to cut 8-inch squares of both our white and our green. And then we are going to start by making the large half square triangles that we use in the trunk here.
Okay.
And so to do that, I have just drawn an X on my white piece.
All
and we're
right.
going to sew on
We
both
need to
sides.
stitch it? Okay.
Yes, please.
Both sides of both lines.
Both sides of both lines, that's right.
Got
you
it.
know the drill.
I do. There we go.
All right.
I'm just gonna, you do that.
Perfect. And so since these are 8-inch squares that we are working with, 4 inches is what we're looking
so
for.
you're doing the make 8, but with a
On a
smaller,
smaller
square.
square.
See, Mom always says you just change the square size,
Yep.
and it's all based on that, and it still works.
Yes, and
That's
since,
perfect.
Since we had solids, you know, I got to play with that a little bit. And so
Nice.
then we can just cut right on those drawn lines now. Just like so.
Excellent.
And then we have a bunch of our half square triangles that we're going to use for our little tree trunks. And I'm going to go ahead and square this to 3.5. So we're using trimmer A for this part. Just like so. And then now you have the perfect little half square triangle for that. And
So many.
yeah, and I have a bunch of these already done and pressed, but let's go ahead and finish this part of the block unit. And so
Okay.
up next, I've cut some 2 by 3.5 inch rectangles and some little bitty 1 1/4 inch squares.
Tiniest
Tiny
squares.
little squares. And so I'm gonna have you snowball. We're gonna place
Okay.
2 of these. So we'll do 1,
Do one,
trim
flip
it.
Okay.
Yep.
Trim and flip, and then do the other side.
Exactly. And so for each block, we're gonna make 2 like this.
So it's kind of like a star sashing.
Exactly.
Sort of. Okay.
Yeah, very similar to that.
Excellent.
Little pieces.
Itty bitty, go nice and slow.
Yeah, and you might shorten
can.
your stitch length a little bit when you're working with these small pieces.
Okay.
Sometimes that is helpful.
All right. So
Okay,
do you
perfect.
trim that with scissors typically?
I
or-
usually do. I just have scissors there, but it's
And then finger press it, or
well.
do you
So
use?
I press because when you're working with small pieces like this, it really
You don't wanna
matters.
stretch 'em
You don't want to
either.
stretch it. You don't want it to get wonky.
Okay.
and
And
so-
and starch probably.
Absolutely. All of that makes a big difference when you're working with small pieces. And so then now we've got that one press back. We're going to add our second here
Yep.
and go point to point.
Okay. This is one too, where if you got them all lined up, you could do all of one side.
Exactly.
When you're making the whole quilt instead of just one block.
Right.
We do it slightly different, you know.
Yeah, and it makes it go very quick when you can sit and chain piece, kind of assembly line style, these steps.
Definitely.
Okay.
There you go.
Beautiful. So then we'll trim that and press this one. Okay. And then I have another one done, because like I said, you're going to need 2 of these for all of your blocks.
Such a cute little
tree trunk.
stem. Yeah, little tree trunk.
And so I have a 2-inch white square as well. And so then when we put this together, they're just going to go like this.
All right.
So we'll sew these 2 and these 2.
Cool.
And then sew that together.
Okay. I love these little hacks. Just learning how to do it all.
Yep. Beautiful. All right, let me press that. Oh, that looks great.
I hope so.
It does, it looks beautiful.
It's always a little bit more stressful when you've got these tiny pieces.
I know, it's true.
We do our best, right?
Giving you a challenge, huh? And so there is 1/4 of our block already done. And so now we get to start on all these little half square triangles. So let me show you. That is still going to use our 2 8-inch squares.
Okay.
And so I have a green and a white. And on this one, I took my ruler and I measured in 4 inches in both directions and drew a line. And then we're going to go ahead and sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of both of these lines and then all the way around the outside edge.
All right, I can do that.
You would do that.
I will. It's another tricky way of making half square triangles.
And so this method gives you the exact number that you need for 1 block. So you can kind of keep that in mind.
Excellent. All right, there you go. It's a little bit stringy, but I think it'll do.
And so by doing this, we now have 4 4-inch squares that we've sewn all the way around.
Yes.
And so I'm just going to cut this apart now on the lines that we drew. Oop, there we go. And I'm going to use the trimmer B
to get your whole sizes, because A is halves.
Exactly.
And B is wholes.
And so we are looking for little bitty 2-inch half square triangles.
They're so little.
They are so little.
I feel like I need to make this quilt though. It's just so beautiful.
Oh,
it looks so vintage.
Yeah, I really love how it turned out. I wanted to kind of honor this traditional block. It really is traditional, and so I kind of leaned into that, and I do really like it.
It turned out so great.
All right, and so then we have our adorable little 2-inch half square triangles, and
I love that.
All you're gonna do now is just rotate your square.
And you have plenty of room.
You have so much room to just trim each of these out. And so that will give you 16 half square triangles, which is exactly how many you need for 1 block. And so
that's great.
It's good mental math to keep track of. And I have a bunch of these ready to go. And so now we're just gonna start laying out our other little quadrants.
All the other pieces.
Yes, and so some of the other pieces you're going to need are these 2 by 3.5 inch rectangles and some 2-inch green squares as well. So I have those ready to go. And so we're going to begin by these corner blocks here are exactly the same. And so I'm going to start by laying out my half square triangles, and I like to start with my triangles pointing in. Oops. The white going down.
It's always tricky for me to do at least the first block.
Yes.
because once I've got that one done, I can reference it. But getting it laid out right the first time,
Exactly.
especially when you've got a bunch of triangles going one way or the other, it's
can be
very
kind
tricky.
of challenging. And so then this little green one is going to go in there, and this one's going to go in there. And then when we sew it together, it looks just like this. It looks like I actually swapped it, but either way, in the quilt, it looks exactly the same.
How it goes.
And so we make 2 of those per block, and they're exactly the same. And so we can set those aside. And so then now let's talk about the layout for the last little quadrant.
Okay.
And so those, we're just going to use the 2-inch squares. And I like to kind of put them down the middle. That's my guide.
Yep.
And then the whites point in towards the center. Just
so
like
tiny.
so.
They're so tiny.
They are so tiny, but man, it turns out so cute. And so then here is our last little block.
I love it.
When it's sewn together. And so then let's go ahead and lay out our 4 quadrants. So this is our top corner. And then this one comes in here and here and like so. And then when we sew it together like a big 4-patch, we have our cute little tree.
That's awesome.
I love it. And so this is set on point. So let me tell you a little bit about how I did that.
Okay.
And so it's just 4 across, 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4 down. And of course you have those kind of in between rows. So I think it's 25 blocks total that you have to make. And then we need to make some setting triangles. So let me set this aside here. Up first, we have a 14-inch square, and we are going to cut this corner to corner in both directions, and that makes these setting triangles here.
Yes.
That's the perfect size for that. And so those are going to be top and bottom and the 2 sides. And then now we just need these 4 corners.
The corners are always smaller, aren't
They are. And so then we're going to use a 7 1/4 inch for those 4 corners. And let me just cut this for you because we're just going to cut this one once. So we'll just lay this corner to corner, just like so. And then let's go ahead and take these back to the quilt so I can just show you guys one more time. And so when you're making a quilt on point, you do your rows diagonally. And so that first row is actually this little corner.
Right.
And then we have our other setting triangle, our first tree, and another setting triangle. And we're just going to build our rows diagonally this direction until we've completed our whole quilt. And so then once you have that all done, you can square it up really nice. And then I went ahead and added a 1.5 inch inner border and then this 5-inch outer border. And the backing is this sweet little floral.
It is so sweet.
Yeah,
just
I love
the right
it.
colors.
It was just perfect for it. I quilted it with Athena, which I think turned out beautifully, and it measures 62 inches square. So it's a great throw size. I hope you guys,
or wall hanging. It's so pretty on a wall. I want one at home.
I agree. I really love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I can't wait to see what version you make.
Well, this has been so fun. I think we did really well with our Tree of Life quilts. I love
agree.
it. It's a fun block.
I agree. It's very fun, super versatile. I love both of these quilt projects so much.
And I think there's still like a million different ways we could have gone with it and different ways to make the Tree of Life block. They get bigger and smaller and different shapes and different size trunks, and there's just
Exactly. Well, and that's what's so fun about Double Take is we get to see new ideas every single time. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was
me too.
super fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Double Take on the Tree of Life block, and we'll see you next time.
All right.